Thank you again for being here, and thank you to the Foundation Espacio Australis for the opportunity to talk here in Expo Dubai 2020. I'm going to talk in this presentation about PlantSat, a cubesat which is being used for a technology demonstration for biological studies in space. I'm Marcos Díaz. I work at the Electrical Engineering Department in the Faculty of Physical and Mathematical Sciences at the University of Chile in Santiago of Chile, which is the capital of Chile in the middle of the country. This is a PlantSat. It's a multidisciplinary and multi-institution project where we are developing a satellite that is going to carry biological subjects into space. And this is a collaboration mainly between the Faculty of Physical and Mathematical Science at the University of Chile, the company The Orbit, which is the company that is offering by free the launch of the PlantSat, GomSpace, which has been providing most of the components for the satellites, and our group, which is the Space and Planetary Exploration Laboratory, is the one building the satellite, integrating the commercial components, and integrating the experiments being developed. We are collaborating with the Foundation Bioscience, which is directed by Jenny Blamey, and this foundation is providing the microorganisms, the extremophiles that are mostly collected from Chile in very hostile environments. And bioscience is one of the places in the world that collects or has the bank of extremophiles more abundant in the world. And we are collaborating with SINDA and CIRIO, which are foundations and company that are collaborating in the development of chambers, containers for carry the plants and microorganisms into space. We are working with graduate students, PhD and master students, and engineers and researchers. First of all, I'm going to probably, for the ones that saw the previous presentation, I'm going to repeat certain things, but I was assuming that this presentation was going to be in a different panel, more or less. So why Chile and why we are working on this is because Chile has different very advantages in many ways. One of these advantages is the geography and the way it is the country. We are a very long country in the southern hemisphere in South America. In length, in terms of latitude, we cover part of Canada, part of US, and part of Mexico in the southern hemisphere, where we have less land in the world. Most of the land is located in the northern hemisphere. 68% of the land is in the northern hemisphere, and only 32% of the land is in the southern hemisphere. We have different geophysics places because of the length of the country. We have very dry weathers in the north and very cold weathers in the south, including Antarctica. And also we have very sophisticated technology in the country, thanks to the astronomy. So that interaction with this high-level technology, has created a very knowledgeable people and very skillful people in the country. And for this reason, we are using the nanosatellite trend to perform space studies, taking advantage of the fast and low-cost development of nanosatellites of the type of CubeSat. And with that, we can do rapid innovation cycles of the technology and studies in space. Also, we can monitor things from ground thanks to the astronomy. And when one example here is traffic management, but also in astronomy. Why we are doing biology studies here is because we are um, uh, thinking that extremophiles, microorganisms, or plants that live in very hostile environments, they could be in other bodies, and we can see if we can survive in space in certain environments, and how we can recognize certain signatures, especially remotely from astronomy, to see if these microorganisms are there in the search. This could support the search for life in space. Okay, so why also Chile? And it's because it's also relevant that the shielding that protects Earth, okay, is the magnetic field, which is a field, a magnetic shielding that is generated because of currents, movement of hot metal in the core of Earth. So this magnetic field is protecting from the radiation, particle radiations coming from the sun, and um, and part of these particles is it's connected to the magnetic field and tends to oscillate in bands along the magnetic fields, producing the radiation belts. So there is where the magnetic field is weaker, the particles can go lower altitude. And this is what we see here in the inner magnetic field, in the inner radiation belt. The magnetic field is much weaker, and the particles can go below in altitude. And the footprints here, this is the footprints on the I don't know why. Here is the footprints of the external radiation belt, and this one is the external as well, from in the top. Okay, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, and the center is one of the footprints of the inner radiation belt here, and this is the weakest point in the magnetic field, and for this reason, it's the place where we get more particles. The inner is ions, the externals are mainly electrons. And this can be very dangerous. And we can see here the southern is also very active, and the South Atlantic anomaly. Most of the satellites fails here, but the advantage of having this as well over Chile or over South America is that we can be monitoring satellites and the biological system under very hostile conditions. So when we have storms or every normal circumstances and high altitudes, they receive high doses of particles, and we can be detecting from Chile what is happening on real time on biological systems. Okay, and this is going to be more severe with time, because the weakest point years ago or decades ago, it was located in the Atlantic Ocean, but it's moving to the west, and currently is in Brazil, the weakest point, and it's moving to the west, so it's going to arrive to Chile in the decades of the 2030. Our first project was 1U CubeSat, which was launched in 2017 from India in a PSLV rocket. The project was conceived in 2009, and we got the resources, which was internally funded from the Faculty of Physical and Mathematical Sciences at the University of Chile as a technology demonstration. So we took 2 years in convince them to do this, and 3 years in the construction of the 1U CubeSat, and 3.5 years waiting for the launch. We were first scheduled for SpaceX, but at that time they were testing the landing mechanism, so they had a lot of accidents, which produced a lot of delays, and eventually we moved to the Indian supplier. And it was operated for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. And here we can see a sphere which is lightning proof. It measures the charged particles, ionized particles in the atmosphere, in the top of the atmosphere. We have also charged particles because of the UV radiation from the sun, and they separate electrons from ions in the molecules that we have in the higher altitude atmosphere, over 100 kilometers of altitude. And these particles can be affected by the particles penetrating from coming from the sun, or from the space in general. And we were measuring with this sphere that activity together with the particle counter, the particles coming from the sun or from outside. And here this sphere needed to deploy, and we had a camera next to it to verify that the sphere was deployed in space. And how we can see in the images it was deployed, we were measuring particles in space. And this is it was the first demonstration that we could study the space environment, and now we are trying to do it in a more diverse way, with more points, not with more sophisticated instruments, with more points. And we are going to study the effects of this environment in other subjects. Okay, these are the current missions that we are working on. So we have 3 cubesats, this time 3U instead of 1U. 1U is 1 liter. So we pass from 1 liter to 3 liters each satellite. So we have the Suchai 2 and the Suchai 3. So they follow more or less the same trend of studying the space physics, but with more sophisticated, little more sophisticated instruments. We add this time magnetometers. We were carrying just lightning probe and particle counters previously, so we are adding magnetometers, and we are adding GNSS or GPS systems to measure total electron content with them in space. We are also doing attitude control in space because we needed to improve our system. We are working also in plasma propulsion. This system is not flying in these missions right now, but we are developing this, and I wanted to mention as well this collaboration with the Commission of the Chilean Commission of Nuclear Energy here in Chile. So these satellites, together of measuring the space environment, all of them, they are carrying these space environment instruments on them. Suchai 2 is going to study the impact of the space environment on optical systems, Suchai 3 on IoT, Internet of Things system, communication system. But the one that we are going to talk now, it's the PlantSat, which is going to study the biological system, the impact on biological. So the main goal here was to try to learn about constellations. We passed from 1 satellite to 3 satellites, and sorry for something pops up in my presentation. So with 3 satellites, we are going to work on properties of constellations or swarm satellites. So sometimes they are coordinated, sometimes they are not going to be coordinated. And this is key because it's really hard to assemble more than 1 satellite, and also it's complex to operate them. So we need to do this automatically and autonomously to really try to get most of the data from the biological system in particular in space, but in the other experiments as well. Okay, here I'm going to speak in particular about the plant experiment. What we are carrying in the satellite, we are carrying a Tillandsia. This is a plant that doesn't have roots, So we don't need soils to carry the plant. We just need humidity and atmosphere, and we need a container to have this. Here we can see in this video the how we were starting the testing of these chambers with balloons inside. It was much simpler to do, for example, the vibrational test with balloons inside, and than just electronics, um, with electronics inside. And with that, see if the system was leaking. This is a video that is a little accelerated, where we can see that the balloon is extended with time when we do the vacuum chamber testing. So we were having some leakage in the platform and in the system. The Tillandsia is a really good analog plant. It's very similar to lettuce, which has been explored in space, and has very analog properties to pineapple as well. So it's a very good analog plant to be studied in space. In addition, it's really relevant to see if this plant can survive in microgravity conditions or in other gravity conditions, to see if we can carry them for generation of natural oxygen as well, and also to have some greens in potential colonizations of the space. So we don't know what might be happening with psychologically if we are all the time in a plastic no veggie environment. Okay. I was showing this video as well because we have other containers. This one was developed, the large one for the plant in acrylic, okay, which has some difficulties for doing some sterilization, okay, in particular in high temperature. But there is a resin that we can use, and we were developing in collaboration with Cinda and Sirio. So they developed really this tiny system, and we are collaborating now in developing this, extending this tiny system in a larger one for the plant. But also we are using the small one for carrying the extremophiles experiments. These tiny chambers, they were developed and tested already for a mission in the space, the International Space Station, early 2020. So in a project directed mainly from Media Lab at MIT. And Luis Guzman here in the video is the one that proposed this project, and he participated with one of many studies with these small chambers in the International Space Station. And here is where we were testing the performance of the chamber with the resin. And now we are extending this study of the resin to chambers larger in size, and also with other properties to make easier the integration of extremophiles in the chamber. So the main goal is to evaluate these chambers in space, to see how they perform, how they last in space, and if they are able to sustain life in higher altitudes than the International Space Station. So here we can see the process of the development of the chamber and the final stage of the chamber. Besides the plants, we are also carrying microorganisms. These microorganisms are extremophiles, so they live in very extreme areas. This is done and performed in collaboration with Bioscience Foundation. The extremophiles that we are testing are the Deinococcus, Pirococcus, and Alophiles. They are all living in very hostile environments in Chile. So they are recollected from Chile, from Antarctica, from Atacama Desert. And here we can see the sterilization of chambers of the plants, and also the small chambers for the extremophiles, and some sponges also that are meant to take some humidity or maintain some humidity inside of the chamber. here is Jenny Blamey, the scientific director of Bioscience Foundation, during the process of integrating and putting the extremophiles in the small containers. The PlantSat right now, how we are going to evaluate the state of the system? We are going to evaluate this by images, but also we are going to evaluate certain components, instruments. They are not completely developed completely, but the idea is to evaluate lights and at different wavelengths, nanometers and UV wavelength, that crossing the system for using optical depth method, we are going to see if we can get growth of the extremophiles, and also with images and multiple sensor, CO2 pressure sensor in the chamber. So if we get a decrement in the CO2, but the pressure is sustained, so then we can conclude that the plant is consuming the CO2 in the chamber, so it's growing and it's alive. But also we are going to take images of the plant to show if it's okay. So here we can see a video of the internal part of the PlantSat. Here's where we turn on the cameras with the light, and where we take images from the chambers there. The substrate of the extremophiles, they change of colors. In particular, for example, the allophiles, they change in color notoriously. Orange, red, sorry, not red, yellow, and purple. So and the Pyrococcus goes more or less black. So we can see and we can detect the growing of the extremophiles and changing in color. So this is more or less the final stage of the PlantSat. Here we remove some solar panels to see and to show how the system is inside, and how we manage everything. There is the container of the plant, and in the inner part is the 4 chambers for the extremophiles subjects. So who we are, here I'm going to describe a little. In the previous presentation, I didn't mention much about us as a group. We are located as a laboratory, but we collaborate with many, as you see in this project and in the previous presentation, with other universities. We are very open nationally and also internationally. But we are located, our laboratory, the Space and Planetary Exploration Lab, it's located in the engineering campus of the University of Chile, which is the Faculty of Physical and Mathematical Sciences, located in downtown Santiago. So we are the Space and Planetary Exploration Laboratory, where we develop most of the technology for the CubeSats. We do the integration of the system. We develop the flight software, which is mainly the magic of all the system. It's very difficult to connect all the system, and the flight software it's one of the key elements in that. And we have multiple instruments and systems that allow us to perform testing, environmental testing and vibrational testing for the components, instruments, and the satellites as a whole. And also we have ground segments that are located in the campus in downtown Santiago, mainly UHF, S-band, C-band, and X-band, for communication to 1 6-meter Yagi antenna and 2 3 meters parabolic antenna. And we are also developing and collaborating in developing optical communications, but they are probably we are expecting to be set in the north of Chile if we finish that soon. So because we are in the southern hemisphere, we might be a good partner for multiplexing data. So we can collaborate, and we do this, and we are working in this collaboration with other places in Asia to download data from them, and they can download data for us. So thank you very much. I hope you have found this interesting, this presentation, and thank you very much again to Espacio Australia's Foundation for the opportunity, and Expo Dubai and all the organizers for this from Chile and from the local organizers.